Wisdom has been heralded as one of the most important virtues to have. People, groups, and cultures around the world all have stories that demonstrate the importance of having this virtue. But exactly what is wisdom? Why has it been compared to precious, rare, fine gold? And most importantly, where can we find it? Interestingly, there are scenes in the Game of Thrones series and the House of the Dragon series that set the stage to explore answers to some of these questions. Hello everyone, my name is Selassie and this is Colium, my commentary on important life themes that appear in film. So, in order to find wisdom, we need to first define what it is. But, trying to define wisdom is like trying to paint a picture of all of space on a small canvas. It's very broad and deep to capture in all of its essence. But I would define wisdom as good judgment and the intelligent application of knowledge. And there's a remarkable scene in the third episode of the fourth season of Game of Thrones that illustrates the point that wisdom is good judgment. So the scene opens with the body of Joffrey Baratheon lying in state in the set of Baelor, and then beside the deathbed of Joffrey Baratheon's body is standing his mother, Queen Cersei Lannister, the Queen Dowager, and his younger brother Tommen Baratheon, who is to become king after him. Few moments pass by and in comes the illustrious politician and the richest man in the whole of Westeros. His name is Tywin Lannister. Tywin Lannister happens to be the father of Cersei Lannister and the grandfather of Tommen Baratheon, who are standing by mourning son and brother. Now, Tywin Lannister, without regard for the mood of the occasion, decides that this is the perfect moment to teach Tommen Baratheon the characteristics that distinguishes great kings. So he asks Tommen Baratheon with a stern and steady gaze. He looks at him and says,
"What is a good king's single most important quality?"
Tommen Baratheon mentions three characteristics. He mentions strength, he mentions holiness, and he mentions justice. And each time he mentions a characteristic, Tywin Lannister shuts him down with examples from the lives of a king who embodied that characteristic and still fell short. So Tommen Baratheon is now standing there thinking and thinking and thinking, and then he finally realized that wisdom is what makes a good king. Now, after he discovered that wisdom is what makes a good king, Tywin Lannister took him further and he quizzed him that, what is wisdom? You say wisdom is what makes a good king, but exactly what is wisdom? So in order to bring out that definition, Tywin Lannister now poses a riddle to Tommen Baratheon and says, a house with great wealth and fertile lands asks for your protection against another house that has a good and strong navy that can one day become your enemies. How do you know which house to side with? How do you know which choice is wise and which isn't? And then Tommen Baratheon says, "No, I do not." And he says, "Exactly. Now a wise king listens and heeds the advice of his counselors until he comes of age, and the wisest of them continue to do so long afterward." It is this particular scene, this particular part where Tywin Lannister quizzes Tommen Baratheon. That is the part that kind of solidifies the definition that wisdom is good judgment and intelligent application of knowledge. Because in the scene, we see Tywin Lannister giving a scenario and letting Tommen Baratheon decide which choice is a prudent choice. And there is a parallel of this particular scene of Game of Thrones in the scriptures also, where Solomon is a young boy, maybe not a young boy, but a young man, just like probably Tommen Baratheon also ascends the throne, and he asks God for wisdom. God gives him wisdom. The next thing we see is that there's a case before him and he has to adjudicate between two women who are fighting over a surviving child as to whose child it is that was dead and whose child it is that is alive. And so there's a parallel to this very scene that we see in the Game of Thrones in the lives of King Solomon that demonstrates that wisdom is good judgment. All right, so now that we kind of know what wisdom is. Why is it so important? I know you are dying to find out where exactly wisdom comes from, but we cannot do that without touching on the importance of wisdom. All right, so Proverbs chapter 3, Solomon writes about the benefits or just how important wisdom is. He says, "Blessed are those who find wisdom, those who gain understanding, for she is more profitable than silver and yields better returns than gold. She is more precious than rubies. Nothing you desire can compare with her." Can you imagine that? Long life is in her right hand. In her left hand are riches and honor. Her ways are pleasant and all her paths are peace. She's a tree of life to those who take hold of her. Those who hold her fast shall be blessed. Right, we know what wisdom is. We know just how important wisdom is. Let's descend into the very question that you are dying to find the answer to, which is, where does wisdom dwell? Now, I do not presume that my answer is, a very definitive one, but I sincerely think that knowledge of philosophy and history coupled with the fear of God is what wisdom is all about. And I'm going to demonstrate it for you. It's not a secret that the more you know, the wiser you become. If you acquire knowledge, the acquisition of cutting-edge knowledge gives you some kind of an unfair advantage. That is why very successful people make reading their topmost priority. And why do we read? We read to seek new information, to get knowledge. In fact, one of my favorite bishops, Bishop David Oyedepo, says that knowledge is the principal raw material for the making of wisdom. If that is true, that knowledge is the principal raw material for the making of wisdom, then it begs the question as to what kind of knowledge makes you wise. And I think, like I said before, knowledge of history and knowledge of philosophy are the building blocks of wisdom. So I'm going to demonstrate this to you, and we're going to use a scene that happened in the very first episode, the very first season of Game of Thrones. In that episode, Daenerys Targaryen is getting married. At that time, she was very young. She was a nobody. She was not a dragon queen. She had not yet conquered nations. She was a young girl getting married to Khal Drogo. And as is the norm, people come from all places to bring gifts. Daenerys receives 2 gifts on that wedding day that made her a great queen later on. The first gift that she received that is of great importance is the eggs that will hatch her dragons. It is very, very important. She got those ones from her guardian. Then we see Ser Jorah Mormont carrying a stack of books, walking across a staircase and getting to Daenerys, and he hands Daenerys this pack of books and says, "These books are the songs and histories of the 7 kingdoms." Daenerys takes the books and thanks Ser Jorah Mormont for bringing him those. Underline the songs and the histories of the 7 kingdoms. In a similar ceremony, when King Joffrey Baratheon was about to get married to Marjorie, Queen Marjorie Tyrell, another ceremony is held like that where they present gifts to King Joffrey, and Tyrion Lannister, the uncle of Joffrey Baratheon, presents a book, a big book to him. I mean, he was known to be someone who reads a lot, and he was known to be a very wise person. So the gift that he's presenting is of particular importance to the case that knowledge of history and philosophy makes you wise. So we see Ser Jorah Mormont presenting a book to Daenerys Targaryen titled, The Songs and Histories of the 7 Kingdoms. And then we also see Tyrion Lannister giving King Joffrey a book, The History of the Lives of 4 Kings, Grand Mr. Keith's history of the reigns of Daeron the Good, Baelor the Blessed, Aegon the Unworthy, and so forth and so on. We are seeing 2 different scenes where people who are about to rule are being given books, specifically history books and philosophy books. The part where philosophy comes in happens in the prequel of Game of Thrones, House of the Dragon. So in that particular scene, I think it's the ninth episode of the House of the Dragon, there are 2 brothers who can become king, Aegon Targaryen and then Aemon Targaryen. Now, Aegon Targaryen is the degenerate son. He is taken to alcoholism, womanizing, prostitution, but he is the eldest of the 2 brothers. He is the first in line to inherit the throne. And his brother Aemon Targaryen is a very calm, cool-headed guy, although he can become very violent sometimes, but he's generally very calm and cool. Their father, the king, dies, and then they have to crown someone king, and Aegon is the next in line. But Aegon is nowhere to be found. He's in some brothel enjoying himself, whoring his life away. His mother sends Aemon, his younger brother, and a knight called Sir Criston Cole to go and look for his brother because he's about to be crowned king. They go to brothel after brothel looking for him. They are not finding him. And then as they were going, a conversation happened that reveals not just the knowledge of history, but knowledge of philosophy as a very key ingredient in the making of wisdom. Aemon Targaryen says to Sir Christian Cole, "Here I am, trolling the city, ever the good soldier, in search of a wastrel who is never taking half an interest in his birthright. It is I, the younger brother." Now, this is the part I want you to listen to very well. He says, "It is I, the younger brother, who studies the histories and the philosophy, who trains with the sword, who rides the largest dragon. It is I who should become king." Aemon Targaryen is saying that the requirements for becoming king are clear. You need to train with a sword. You need to ride the largest dragon. So you need to be powerful and all of that. You need to be powerful, in body. That is where the training with a sword and flying the dragon comes in. But he says that you also need to learn history and philosophy, which makes you sharp in the mind. If you need to rule as a king, as a leader, as a politician, in whatever walk of life that you find yourself in, if you want to be at the top, a successful person, you need knowledge of history and philosophy. But exactly how do they make you wise? It's because history reveals patterns. History shows you what has been. If you know what has been, you are likely to know what could possibly be. History of the past kind of helps you to predict the future. The Bible says that there is nothing new under the sun. What has been, it is that which is and shall be. So knowledge of the past, helps you to live prudently in the present and prepare for the future. And that's what wisdom is all about. How does knowledge of philosophy makes you wise? Philosophy reveals the principles, that reality is based upon. There's a reason why people still read Aristotle, Socrates, and because their thoughts were so close to reality. And here, when I say philosophy, I don't mean the academic practice of writing arguments in college. I'm saying, when I say philosophy, I mean the fundamental truths that lies behind reality. Knowledge shows you patterns and helps you to predict the future, but philosophy reveals the principles that transcends time. I hope that I have been successful at convincing you that wisdom is the intelligent application of knowledge and good judgment, and that knowledge of history and knowledge of philosophy are the essential raw materials for the making of wisdom. But I cannot stop here without telling you about the secret ingredient, and that is the fear of God. It is Solomon that said that. I think he wrote it in Proverbs, that the fear of God is the beginning of wisdom. Now, how does the fear of God create wisdom? It creates wisdom because God now stands as the authority that animates you to convert the knowledge of your history and your philosophy, the principles and the patterns that you've acquired, to put it into practice. Because without action, if I know for a fact that Apple stocks is going to rise tomorrow, but I do not act on that information, it is useless. So it does not matter if you have access to cutting edge information or not. If you do not use that information, you won't get anything out of it. And I think that's where the fear of the Lord comes in. God is the power that animates you to take the knowledge, the cutting edge knowledge that you have from you reading history and from the principles that you've gotten from philosophy. God is the one that animates you to put those principles to use so that you can reap the benefits that are more precious than gold. Knowledge of history, knowledge of philosophy, and knowledge of God. These are the three things that makes wisdom. Let me know what you think in the comments. I know this is getting too long. I don't want to take much of your time, but this is my very first video, so I think I deserve some pardon. So yeah, thank you for watching. My name is Selassie. See you next time, and please leave a thumbs up and subscribe. See you in the next video.